Hi, Akela. How are you?
I'm great, Eric. How are you?
I'm doing great. I was just complimenting Akela listeners on her background. She has the coolest wall. It's brick that she painted black. And this is her new salon that she's sitting in right now, which is super cool. So, this is Akela Douglas. You're a Sacramento hairdresser and owner of Got Roots Color Bar in
Yes.
Sacramento. You're a
Yes.
Wella and GHD brand educator, and you're a multinational and international award winner.
I am.
Did I miss
It sounds
anything?
it sounds cool when you say it. I'm like, oh
It
yeah.
always sounds cooler when somebody else says it. There's no doubt about that. We should all have somebody who follows us around, and whenever we meet somebody new, this person who follows us around just
Right.
introduces us
You're a
to
hype
this new
man.
person.
Like, check
Yes,
with my hype man first.
100%, 100%. Okay, let's start with where you're from and how you got into the hair business.
All right, so I'm born and raised here in Sacramento, California. And I was kind of a late bloomer in the professional hair game. I've been braiding and doing hair since I was 10 years old, but I did the corporate college route first and hated all parts of it. So at 28,
Well,
I left my
hold on.
job.
Don't just skip over
Oh,
the corporate
no.
college route. I want to hear about that because we have you're not the first one who's gone the corporate college route and then made their way to hair. But I'm always very curious because it is an unusual path to take to our industry. So why did you go to college? Did your mom want you to go or, expectations and all that?
Yeah, I did not have a choice. And so college was a must. And I mean, I was always good. I actually graduated high school in 3 years. And
Wow.
so I was like, okay, well, let me go get this degree. I know my mom really wants me to have it, but deep down, I knew I wanted to do hair. But I did get a business finance degree from Sacramento State.
Yeah.
Um, Almost a year before, I tried to quit and go to beauty school. My mom was like, "You only have a year left. Like, just finish." I'm like, "Okay, fine." So I just knocked it out, and
Yeah.
then got the job doing corporate sales, and all that stuff. And I was
What
like, "Okay,
what
it's
what were you
cool."
selling?
Office supplies.
Office supplies. I dated a girl who sold office supplies in my 20s.
Yeah, yep.
Yes.
It was a company, like a local small company, and I was knocking on doors trying to sell some paper.
Hustling.
Yeah,
Slinging office supplies, paper clips, office paper. Everybody needs it, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yes,
They
yes. I'm
do.
not
They
making
do.
fun of it, but it is
No,
fun. It is fun to talk about though because that's the world out there. Is that
it
there's
is.
people who sell office supplies, and it's
As a full-time job.
as a full-time job. And I remember I dated this girl. Her name was Christy. I don't think she listens to my podcast, so I think this is safe. She doesn't do hair, but she sold office supplies door to door and same thing. And she had kind of a briefcasey thing that she took around with her and had various catalogs in it.
Yep.
And she'd walk in to an office building, and at the end of the day when she would come home she would tell me about how some office buildings are good, some office buildings are bad, and the bad ones are bad because they have security that doesn't let her just go willy-nilly throughout,
Nope.
all the floors to try to sling the supplies. And the good ones are the ones that didn't have security, where she could just go into any office and engage somebody there and then try to hook them on like some new paper.
Yeah, I definitely got kicked out of some buildings during that career phase of my life.
That's awesome. But hold on. So as much as it seems like we're making fun of it, well, first of all, how long did you do it?
Um, Probably about 3 years.
Okay, that's a pretty good amount of time.
Yeah.
So and that's about the average amount of time that somebody spends in a job. I know in
Hmm.
the hair industry, some salon owners think that a hairstylist should stay there for the rest of their lives, but the fact is that there's about a 30% or so turnover per
Yep.
year. So about three
Hmm.
years in a job, that makes sense. Now, with that job, what did you learn from it? You had to learn something from it. I doubt you were passionate about it, but tell us about your experience.
I mean, you have to realize I'm older than I appear. So this is like very early in like social media and whatnot. So you definitely had to be more social, and it definitely helped me more with my people skills and being comfortable talking to people that I don't know.
Mm,
Obviously, sales also translate into the salon world, so that's super beneficial. And I think just ultimately as a business owner, just to be a lot more well-rounded too. Yeah.
I think it is a tremendous skill. You called it being social with people. I think it's a tremendous skill to be able to walk into a strange environment, to walk up to somebody who doesn't want you there, doesn't really
Hmm.
want to be talking to you, and engage them in conversation and try to convince them that you have something that they need. I think that is an enormous skill. It really, regardless of
Yeah.
what you end up doing in your life.
True. Yeah. It definitely takes a certain type of personality to deal with rejection all day because you're really only getting maybe 10 to 20% of those people actually, but everyone just talking to you in the first place. And then probably only like about 5% actually buying something from you. So
Wow.
you have to have
Okay.
some thick skin.
I That's another great learning lesson is the tenacity that comes out of that. So, but how good did it feel after you actually sold something to somebody?
Oh, it was great. It was always great. I'm like, yay, paper. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah, paper.
offices go through a lot of paper, so it was great commission for me.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, it's always a great sense of accomplishment when you're striving for something, and then even just from a financial aspect too. With sales, you usually have like a very low base salary, so your income is dependent on commission, which as a hairdresser you learn a lot about later on too. So I think just overall definitely learn some great skills on basically even if you're working for someone else, still how to like run your own business and be successful when your paycheck depends on your results.
totally. Okay, so but what was the final straw that broke the camel's back and had you looking elsewhere for a job?
So on the weekends, I would moonlight as a MAC makeup artist at the mall. And it got to a point where I was like, I'm having way more fun on these 1 or 2 days a week at the mall than I am in this cubicle right now. And so finally I was like, you know what? Let's just do it. It's something I knew I've always was meant to do. Uh, so I just took that leap of faith and quit my job. I sold my house, got rid of my car, I moved in with my mom,
Wow.
went to beauty school
Wow.
at 28.
At 28, were you the oldest
Yeah.
one in beauty school?
Not the oldest, but I was one of the oldest. I went to night school though, which was a little bit
Okay.
better. So that tended to be like moms and older people. So
Okay. Got it.
yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah,
And were you good right away?
yeah, yeah. I was, like I said, even though I wasn't really introduced to like the professional side, like I've had my hands in hair since I was 10 years old. And so I really wanted to learn, I'm a big nerd. So I really wanted to learn the ins and outs and the theory of cut and color and those things. So I just completely geeked out and I was able to set myself up with, I had no other responsibilities besides being in school. So I was able to just focus on that 100%.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay.
Yeah.
So you go to school, you did well, you got out, and then what?
So before I graduated, I was looking around and through at that time Craigslist, and I saw that there was a salon in Midtown Sacramento that was hiring a receptionist. So I was like, oh my God, this place is super cute. And then I looked up the owner and I was like, oh my God, like she was a platform artist for Sebastian. She was doing all the hair shows and traveling the world doing hair. And I was looking at her portfolio. I was like, oh my God, like I need to learn from her. And so I went to interview for the receptionist job and she looked at me and she goes, you're a hairdresser, aren't you? I'm like, soon. She was like, she's like, I need a receptionist. I don't need a hairstylist. And so she's
Mm,
like, call me back when you graduate and get your license. And I'm like, okay. So about a month before I finished school, I emailed her back and she had me come in and do a working audition. I had to do like, an updo and a haircut and, some styling and whatnot. And she basically said it was a small little boutique salon at the time. I think they only had like 4 chairs. Perfect location. But she's like, I already have an assistant right now. She's like, but you're good, and I want to work with you. So she made me a deal where I would only take request only clients. I couldn't take any new clients, but I still got to take one-on-one classes with her and her assistant
Okay.
until she felt like I was ready to be on the floor. And then eventually I assisted her full time for a while, but pretty much within 8 months, I was on the floor as a junior stylist.
Oh, great. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So little salon like that, bite size, a good place to learn. And she seemed like she liked you and you liked her. And so she was a good mentor. And
Absolutely.
how long did you spend there?
Well, her name is Marcy Landgraf. You guys know her. She's incredible.
Shout out.
Um, Shout out to Marcy, my mentor. I want to say I was there for, I think about another 3 years,
Okay.
3.5 years. And then I just got the itch to, I'd been in Sacramento my whole life. And so I decided to move to the Bay Area, which is only about like an hour and a half from Sacramento. And so I ended up working at a really busy salon in San Francisco. So what I was doing for a while was like 3 days a week in San Francisco, 2 days a week in Sacramento. And I
Okay.
was
So
going
hold on.
back and
Why did
forth.
you want to go to San Francisco? Why did you go there?
I just wanted to get out of Sacramento. I had been here
Okay.
my whole life. And so
Right.
I was ready. I was just ready, for a change. And I'm like, ooh. And then, it was a challenge for myself too, because you're like, ooh, San Francisco. Like,
Right. Big
I don't even know
city.
if I'm good enough for that, but we're going to try. Right.
Right.
And yeah, so I ended up at a cool salon there. They were ranked really high on Yelp. So I was able to build clientele pretty quickly. And then also realizing the education that I got from Marcy, I was better than I thought I was. And so I was able
It's great.
to really, build and stretch myself. One thing about me is I never wanted to restrict myself to only working with certain hair types or certain clientele. I was like, I would never want to turn anyone away because I didn't know how to do their hair. So being in that position, I've always been like the only Black girl in multicultural salons. And so it was great experiences for me because, I could do what they did, but I can also do things that they didn't know how to do. So I was also bringing in a whole new set of services that a lot of these salons weren't doing before.
Interesting.
So that also was like a really cool experience too, and also really helped me grow my clientele fairly quickly because I literally could take anybody that walked in the door.
That's amazing. And that's unique. So you were working on all different textures of hair.
I tell
Very
people, yeah,
cool.
if you have hair, I do it.
And did you ever get any white ladies who had, very fine hair, let's say straight hair, who looked at you and they're like, "Are you sure you know what to do with my hair?"
They never said it out loud.
Okay.
Sometimes I would see body language,
Yeah.
which is
Doubt.
fair because,
Yeah.
as Black women, we do the same thing. And I teach curly classes all over the country to all types of people. And of course, you're going to get pushback, especially like when you don't look like the stylist. But honestly, I'd say about 60% of my clientele is white ladies with fine hair and highlights. So
I love
you
it.
don't have to look like your clients, you just have to deliver good results.
I love it. I love it. And that's what you learned, right? I guess you
Yeah.
learned that in school and you learned that in your first salon.
Yeah.
And but you were also bringing in other clients with highly textured hair, and so you could do it all, which is really really cool. Okay, so how long you were there for 3 years?
Yeah, so I was with well then I was going back and forth between the Bay Area and Sacramento for a
Oh, yeah,
while.
yeah, 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 yeah. Right.
Yeah, so I was
Okay.
doing a couple days in San Francisco, and then that dropped down to full-time San Francisco once a month in Sacramento. And
So
then
did you
I'd
move? You
say
moved?
I moved. Yeah,
Okay.
I lived in Oakland and worked in San Francisco. And so eventually I just went full-time in San Francisco
Okay.
for I guess 3 years is like my my itch because
That's
then
it. That's your threshold. That's yep.
yeah, around that
That's your,
time,
that's
and
your
then
fuse.
it really is. I'm like, okay, what's next? 3 years, what's next? And then me and another stylist there branched out and opened our own. It was the first Got Roots
Okay.
in San Francisco. So
Okay, so
yeah,
you had a got roots in San Francisco. That was the first one. And this one that you just opened, I don't think I told the listeners that you just opened your Got Roots Color
Yes.
Bar in Sacramento, what, like a
Yes.
week ago or something?
Yes. Literally, I just
Yeah.
had my grand opening party on Sunday. But yeah,
Amazing. And congratulations. Okay, so you
thank
opened the
you.
first one in San Francisco. What year was that? Pre-COVID?
That was yeah, so 2017.
2017.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So and it was going well. So the whole my concept of Got Roots, it's similar to well, Madison Reed. And it's a funny story. Madison Reed and Got Roots opened the same week in San Francisco. Their very first location. It was only a mile away from me.
Madison
So this
Reed is a large corporate chain that does root touch-ups, right? And they
yes.
have their own color brand. And what they want, their strategy is to sell the color and then send the color to the client's house. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I had had the whole root touch up bar idea for like 4 years. And so I finally acted upon it. And then I see in the news, like, oh, this company that's way bigger than me is literally doing the same exact thing, like a mile away. And at first, like, we completely freaked out. But then I was like, you know what? Actually, this is a good thing because we are introducing a new concept to customers and they have the marketing dollars to do that. And we have, very talented stylists. We're using professional color. I still wanted it to be that full salon experience, but you're in and out and not even trying to take you from your regular stylist. It's just like, those grades come back every 2 weeks. So just giving them another option to keep them from box dyeing their hair at home, essentially. So yeah, we opened the same type of concept literally within the same week, a mile apart. And we were doing well. It was great. Eventually, me and my business partner decided to part ways, and she kept the location, and I kept the brand, and that was right around October 2019. And then we know what happened after that.
Wow. Okay. So you got the better end of that deal, I assume. She was stuck with the salon in San Francisco, which, as most of our listeners know, because I would say, well, certainly in the United States, most of our listeners, well, let me think about it. I haven't actually looked at our demographics and geographics of our listenership in the last probably 6 months, but about 6 months ago, in the United States, we have probably 40% of our listeners are coming from California. The other
Oh, wow.
60% are coming from the rest of the United States. We have a lot of listeners in New York City and a lot of the big cities, Chicago. We have a lot of listeners in Florida, et cetera. But I bring that up only because we do have a lot of listeners in California, and we all know, don't we, what happened in California during COVID, especially in San Francisco. San Francisco was actually worse than Los Angeles.
Yep.
Yeah, you guys got shut down, and it was like the full shutdown. Not quite as bad as China. China was like 3 years worth of shutdown. Like they just opened
Yeah,
up like
I
7 months
know.
ago.
I know. We were the first to close down and the last to reopen. I was shut down for a full 6 months in
Yeah.
San Francisco City. So
Yes.
by that time, I just had a studio. Um, and thankfully, the place that I was in wasn't charging us rent or anything while we were closed down. So I was able to get through it. But by the end of it, so many of my clients had moved away because, they're in tech. They were working from home and, keeping those California salaries and going back to Indiana or
Yeah.
Jersey or, wherever with those big salaries. And so it was kind of like, okay, do I stay here? What do I do? Just kind of in that limbo area. I even started looking. I was like, okay, do I need, do I need to go back to selling some paper? Like, what are we gonna do here? Because it was seeming like it was never ending.
Yeah.
And my best friend called and she's like, I really think you should come to Houston. And so I moved to Houston.
Oh my God. Okay. You moved to Houston, and now I'm from Dallas, and
Uh-huh.
and we have a salon in Dallas. We have a salon in Austin, and COVID lasted like 6 weeks, and then we
Yeah,
reopened.
2.5 seconds. Yeah.
Yes, and everything was totally fine.
Yeah.
Nobody got sick. Everybody was totally
Yeah.
fine by like May of. I'm making this up. Maybe not May. Maybe it was May, June, something like that. of 2020, and then everything was fine after that. So you
Yeah.
went to Houston, and by the way, all my friends who were living in San Francisco, every single one moved for
Yeah.
largely the same reason, because
Yeah,
they're
I
like,
mean,
this is
it
stupid.
was a ghost town, and
Yeah.
in some parts it kind of still is because a
Yeah.
lot of people didn't return back to the office. So, you're looking, especially it's not exactly a cheap place to live, and
No.
so when you're looking at everything to find, I'm like, okay, well, I'm looking at the cost of housing in Houston. I was like, oh, this place is free. So, I had well, compared to California,
Right.
and so I had a friend that already owned a salon there, and I just went and it was great. And that's when I kind of really took off more in terms of education. So that's when I really started traveling a lot for Wella and GHD. I ended up in a position with another chain of salons doing their salon education and creating curriculum. And that's when things really started to take off with education. So that's what I
Awesome.
focused on for those
Uh,
3 years.
Very interesting. Okay, so
Yeah.
your 3 years in Texas were
Yeah.
focused on education, and did you like it?
I did. I did. I would be behind, as I'm getting older, I cut my hours behind the chair, 2 or 3 days a week, and then traveling pretty much every week. During this whole process too is when Wella launched the Curl Craft team, which I'm a part of.
Hmm.
So we actually helped create curl curriculum for Wella. So then that's when all of that kind of took off and blew up. So that's when I really started deep diving into curl education for the masses. And that's what I was doing. I was traveling and taking some clients.
So for the listeners who are like, okay, wait a second, record scratch. How did she go from I'm moving to Houston because I have a friend to developing the curriculum for Wella? How did that
I
happen?
skipped a little part, right? So while in San Francisco, probably around 2017, the salon I was working at carried a different color line that I was still trying to learn and figure out. And so I did convince them, and I've always used Wella. And so I asked them, like, hey, can we bring in a little bit of Wella? Because this was the age of everyone with really, really dark hair wanted your hair color. And so I needed some cooler tones, to get those silvery tones. And so we did. We brought in some Well, and I got to know the account manager, and she's like, "Hey, we really need some educators in this area." And so I auditioned, and they said yes. And so during that whole process of opening the first Got Roots is when I kind of just started with Wella. But the onboarding process kind of takes a while. So I think and then COVID, right? So I was doing pretty good for like 2018, 2019. And then COVID kind of slowed everything down. So after moving to Texas, I think it was actually great for me because now I'm also in the middle of the country. So it made it a lot easier for me to get to different places a lot faster. And so that's when education really, really took off for me.
Okay, that makes sense, and those are good lessons as well. So why did you move back to Sacramento?
Another random serendipitous call. It was like a week before Christmas last year, and kind of that same thing. It's like, okay, what's next? I was actually leaning towards going full time, like corporate education.
Oh,
Kind of testing those waters to see what that would look like. I broke my shoulder,
oh,
and
doing what?
of uh, I wish it was something cool. I was in Hawaii, but I was
Okay,
walking up the stairs at
kite
the movie
surfing.
theater. I asked people, I was like, do you want the true story or do you want a fun story? My fun story is I was taking surf lessons and saw a shark and slipped
There
and
you go.
fell on my
Yes.
surfboard. The
Okay.
real story is I went to the bathroom in the middle of watching Black Panther in Hawaii while killing time before my flight, and while walking back up the dark stairs, I fell and
Oh
hit
my
my shoulder on the
gosh.
corner. So yeah, that was end of I think 2022.
Definitely
Um,
not a cool way to break your shoulder.
No, not at all. So, I was down for quite a few months. And then after that, being in the salon, like blow drying and stuff, just doesn't feel as good anymore. And so, yeah, I was leaning towards just going kind of corporate full time education, kind of checking out some, see what brands had positions open. But obviously, that's kind of hard when you've, been in the salon space for a long time. But then I get a call from one of my managers here in Sacramento. We had just seen each other. I was teaching in San Francisco, and she knows I'm from Sacramento. And was like, hey, I don't know if you ever thought about coming back, but a friend of mine is selling her salon because she's moving to a bigger location. And in order to get out of her lease, she needs someone to take over her lease, and she's leaving everything inside. So 7 stations, chairs, mats, reception area, everything. Shampoo bowls.
Wow.
Like literally, I could just walk in and just work if I wanted to. And the deal was just insane. The rent was like, oh my God, are you serious? And it's a beautiful location, perfect location in Midtown Sacramento. And so I talked to my mom, and my mom was like, you're stupid if you don't do this. So she was like, I got you. I'll help you. Like, let's just do it. So literally within 8 weeks, I moved all of my stuff from Houston back to Sacramento and opened the salon.
Wow.
Now I'm here.
Crazy.
Now I'm here.
That's crazy.
Crazy
The great
story.
thing about being an educator for companies like Wella and GHD is that you could do it from anywhere, though, right?
Yes, yes. I'm
That
still,
is,
even in the process, I've been on 4 trips since this whole process started. So, yeah,
that's awesome. All right.
yeah.
So you land back in Sacramento. Your mom is happy, of course,
Oh
because
yeah,
her baby
yeah.
is home.
Yep.
And you step into this salon. Okay. So are you going to, how many days are you working behind the chair?
Right now I'm open Wednesday through Saturday, and I'm
Okay.
kind of doing a hybrid. Well, I do. So the space is big enough to where I still have my express route touch-up bar, and then I have 5 stations that I rent out as well. So for now, since we're just getting started, I'm kind of doing my regular clients and working the root bar for now. But as soon as we're busy enough, I plan to, hire for the express route touch-up bar, and then I only plan to be behind the chair maybe a couple days a week just for clients that I want to take. I'm
Right.
finally at that point in my career where I can do that.
Right. I know. That's what everybody dreams of, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just those days when the clients that they love come in. Okay, so
Yeah.
the clients, they came back to you after 3 years of you being actually more than, well, I mean, you
Yeah.
were when you were in San Francisco, you were kind of doing those clients back.
A
So
little
about
bit.
about 3 years or so, right?
Yeah, well, I haven't lived in Sacramento for 10 years. I've been gone for a full 10 years from Sacramento.
Right.
But I mean, my whole tribe is here, my whole
Yeah.
family. Like, I was like in tears all day Sunday. There was well over 100 people that showed up to the grand opening, people that I
So
haven't
cool.
seen in 10 or 15 years. And, they're making appointments. And then I still have my clientele from San Francisco that's booking appointments here in Sacramento as well.
Wow.
So it feels good. And my goal is, like I said, I don't want to be full time behind the chair as an owner. I want to be a present owner and really take care of the business. So my goal, I mean, I still need my hands and hair because I can't fully give that up. But the goal is, like I said, kind of part time and, take care of the people that I love working with, and then grow the stylists that are working for me.
Okay, so you're going to continue working with Wella and GHD, I assume, and you've also got your own education going on. Talk about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I had planned to launch it January 1st, and then the salon thing happened. So, I will be ramping that back up again. So now that I have this space, especially, I'm also kind of turning this into an academy. So I will be hosting my own classes here. And then I have lots of hair friends all over the country. So I'm going to be bringing them out once a month as well, just to bring different varieties of advanced education to Northern California. Because I think that is something that's kind of lacking in this area. And so, like I said, I'm lucky enough to know literally some of the best educators in the country. And so they'll be here, and so will I. So, and then I also
Wow.
do online one-on-one coaching as well. So if anyone wants to, maybe they can't travel to classes and they want some one-on-one coaching, whether it be for textured hair or like business coaching or how to get into education, or just want to nerd out on some theory, I have that available for online as well.
So it's not easy for us to talk about technical education on a podcast as the hairdressers are driving to the salon or walking their dogs or whatever. But I
Yeah.
imagine you do quite a bit of non-technical education with business-oriented education and things like that. What are your favorite topics that you normally educate on that are not technical hair education?
Well, I think something that's really important and that I've noticed with a lot of salons is their lack of marketing and simple things as like having a functional website and making sure that financially you're set up properly. And some of these I had to kind of learn as I go, and kind of figure it out. And so, like, one of my mentees now just launched her own thing, and I'm in her DM. Okay, do you have your website? Make sure your SEO is set up. Like, make sure you also have a Facebook landing page, even if you don't use it, because that's how people find you on Google Maps. And kind of the inner workings of. I actually had 5 people. They're like, hey, like I actually just typed in your salon name, and it brought me right here. And I'm like, well, yeah, because those are the types of things that you need in order for people. They shouldn't have to hunt you down. So just making sure that people rely heavily on social media, and that's great. But don't forget about the foundational things like having a quality website where all your information can land.
I think that's absolutely right. And I think it's really important to reiterate something that we've talked about and others in our industry have been harping on for many, many years. And that is the client journey that your, let's say, before they become a client. So potential client might be searching for you, and how do they find you? And you can reverse engineer that. You can act like a potential client, go on to your cell phone or your laptop or whatever, iPad, and search around and see what happens. Do your website links work? Certain these, everybody assumes, of course, my website links work. I haven't checked them in 9 years, but of course they work.
Right.
And guess what? Some might not.
Yeah.
So it's really good every so often to go back and give yourself one of the, like a marketing audit, if you will, and try to recreate the journey of your ideal potential client and see how easy it is for people to find you. And you might be surprised that it's not very easy for people to find you. And then after you kind of try to ignore the shame from like how bad your digital presence is online, you can then say, okay, I need a better website. I need more searchability on my website. I need links that work. I need to make sure I should probably have my email here because email is how I prefer people contact me, blah, 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 blah. Make sure the phone number is clickable. The link is clickable. Make sure all that stuff is happening.
Definitely. Like all of that is so important. And then, after they leave too, something I was just working on last week is setting up all of my automated emails. And we're so lucky now that we have all this software. It does all this stuff for you. So it's not like you're having to do this by hand. Once you set it up, it kind of goes on autopilot, but making sure that I have emails that follow up after, a guest's first time, but then also like after their fifth time, because I think people tend to neglect repeat clients and just forget to treat them the same way they did the first time they came in, and like, hey, just checking in. Are you good? Like, excited to see you for your next appointment. So like little things like that, I think make it really, really set you apart because, you throw a stone, you're going to hit a salon. And so what's going to set you apart from everyone else on the street?
Don't take your longtime clients for granted.
No.
So many people that I talk to when I'm out in the wilderness there in the city and I talk to people, whether I know them well or not, and I ask them about their hair journey or whatever, they're like, oh, yeah, I've been going to her for a really long time, but I'm kind of looking around now. I'm like, oh, why is that? Well, because she's just kind of on autopilot. Yeah. She doesn't, she used to seem like she cared a little bit more. And because I've been going there for X number of years, now she just kind of seems like she just expects me to be her client. And she's not trying anymore. Whether it's with the consultation, whether it's like with the trying new styles, colors, looks, whatever, just the communication.
Yeah, and it's so important to always, because they can go anywhere. So why are they staying with you? And some of that is relationship building. When I had worked in San Francisco or taken clients in about 2 years, and I did a pop-up right before the holidays, and I had a handful of clients that came and first of all, like sold out in like 2 days. I was very surprised. I was like, I haven't been here in so long. I'm sure you're going somewhere else. No, I had four
Awesome.
clients that literally had not seen anybody else to do their hair for 2 years. And I
Wow.
was like, number one, don't do that. That's not healthy. But also,
Right.
oh, like
Yeah.
you missed
Thank
me.
you.
You know what I
I
mean?
love you too.
I love you too, and a lot of that is, relationship building and making them feel special when they are in your chair. I know not at the root bar for my personal clients, and this is sometimes controversial, but I don't write my formulas down. I just randomly remember random things, but also like I don't want to give you the same exact thing every single time you come in. Like even if I slightly adjust your toner, like at least let's keep it interesting. You know what I mean? Or
Hmm.
after a while, if we've been doing the same thing for a while, I do a little check in, like, hey, how are we feeling? Are we ready for something different? Because if I'm bored, I know you're bored. So
Yeah.
let's have a conversation about that. Can we go a little shorter this time, or can we switch up your tone for the seasons? Or I'm
Hmm.
always open with my clients about keeping it fresh.
Hmm. Hmm. What is the most difficult conversation you've ever had with a client while they're in your chair?
Ooh, let me think about that. I think a difficult conversation is when you are not the right stylist for them, and you have to almost like break up with them. And not necessarily because they're upset or unhappy. And sometimes like you really have to finesse that. There's just some people that they drain me. And even though they love their hair, like I said, as you get further along in this career, you finally get to a point where you can decide who you want in your chair. And I really love what I do. So I'm very empathic. So like I can't take energy sucking for 2 hours, while I'm doing your color. And so I'm like, hey, you know what? This has been great. I'm glad that you love your hair. But I just don't think that this is a great pairing. I may know other people that have different personalities that would be a better fit for them. But
Akela, are you breaking up with me?
yeah, yeah,
So
kind
what do
of.
they say?
I, I mean, one took it very, very hard, very,
Yeah.
very hard. But I was like, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. The others, I think sometimes they're like a little embarrassed, maybe, and so they just
Yeah.
don't say anything. They're like, okay, well, I understand. But again, I always try to like set them up for some like, not like pass them off to somebody else, but literally somebody that I think would naturally
Sure.
be a better fit for them.
Okay. So your soul sucking clients that you want desperately to scuttle a- away from your chair, do you pick your worst enemies and then refer them
No,
there, or
no. Like I said, it is strategic. Like there's certain people that I just know like actually like homegirl would like actually really love this woman. Like I think they're just a better energy fit. Or some people, I'm kind of chill. Some people are just like at 100 like all
yeah,
the time, and I'm like I don't have that kind of
yeah.
energy to deal
I
with these.
need
But
you
there are
like
stylists that
35, sister.
yeah, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like we're chilling, we're just having a good time. So,
yeah.
and again, like I said, sometimes it's not even about they don't like their hair, or there are people that it doesn't matter what you do, they hate it. And so again, I'm like, I
Right.
obviously cannot make you happy. So
That
I
seems
think we
easier.
should, yeah,
That
we
seems
should go
easier.
on. That's a
Like,
much easier
you
conversation.
clearly don't like what I'm doing for your hair. But what's so funny is those clients, they tend to keep wanting to come back, and they just
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have to assume that they have that personality where they just like to complain about everything, which
facts.
is part of soul sucking.
Exactly. Also, don't want them. And trust me, I love my clients. I'm grateful for everyone that is in my chair over these last, 12 or 13 years. It's been an amazing career. I'm very, very blessed. Like I said, I've developed incredible relationships with my clients. Situations like that are very far and few in between. But
Yeah,
like I said, as you get further in this career, sometimes you just have to protect your peace.
sure.
And I love what I do so much. I don't ever want to be in a position where someone is making me not love it.
Yeah, I think that's really
you
good.
know?
Those are the boundaries that we all need. And
Yes.
and I
Yes.
think that that's a good boundary right there. If somebody's making you not like your job, then
Yeah.
they're crossing that boundary, and so you gotta get rid of them. I used the word scuttle earlier. I love the word scuttle.
Scuttle. That is a good
Scuttle
word.
means to get rid of something. It's like scuttle, scuttle away.
Love it.
We're heading into, well, not heading into, we are in a political year. We've got
Yeah.
this big election coming. We have two people that very few people like. And not to get political, but I'm just quoting what I read in the paper. And we've
Yeah.
got two people who not a lot of people like. And
Yeah.
people, and now and then you get somebody who really likes one of them, and they like to sit down in your chair, Akela's chair, and they like to talk loudly about how great or horrible somebody is on the political scene. Do you ever have this happen to you?
When I moved to Texas, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Well, you went from San Francisco to Houston,
Yes.
and I had a number of friends go from San Francisco to Texas and Florida. And so, how'd that go?
You know what? I actually kind of love it because what it ends up doing is I don't have to agree with my clients. We don't have to have the same political views. Like I'm doing your hair. But what it does is it opens up the door for conversations to where on both sides you may start to see things differently when you're exposed to people that don't have the same viewpoint as you do. And like I said, and it goes both ways. They'll say something like, oh, okay, yeah, that actually makes sense. Or I'll say something like, oh, I didn't think about it like that. So I think as long as you keep it professional, like if someone's going off on a rant, like, hey, time out, that's not the time or place for this. But I'm all down for healthy, conversations that aren't extreme on either end.
Akela for Congress. Right here,
Yeah.
we are announcing your impending campaign to run for Congress, because that was the best political answer I think I've ever gotten. No, and I'm not demeaning the answer. I think you're absolutely honest with that one. And by the way, like that's like something I would say. But of course, we need more of that in our world, don't we? Versus the you don't believe what I believe?
Yeah.
Get the hell out of my salon, right?
Yeah, no,
We got a lot of that.
there's a place for everyone. Like I said, as everyone keeps it professional, respectful, I'm down for a healthy conversation, and we may
Yep.
not end up agreeing on anything at the end of it, but at least like we have different perspectives that we can share with each other.
It seems like the freedom to have a different opinion is gone in some people's
I know.
minds.
I
So
know. I
hopefully
know.
we get back to that one of these days. All right.
That'd
So
be nice.
this is the wave the wand question. I'm going to hand you a wand through the screen, and you're going to take it. And when you wave it, you can change anything you want at all in the industry. What would you change right now?
I
Wave
would
that wand.
change the lack of curly and coily and zigzag hair education in our industry.
Which
Hair
you're trying to
is,
do.
yeah, I am trying to do it. Hair is hair. Curly and coily hair is not this weird alien. Like, we know color theory, we know cutting theory, we know hair care. It doesn't change just because the pattern is different from what you're used to working with. And that's the biggest thing that I'm trying to get across in my curly classes is that by the end of this class, you're going to realize you already knew how to do this, but no one gave you the tools and the confidence to know that you already know how to do this because it's just hair. And so I hope in our industry we get to a point where anybody can walk into any salon and get their hair done and get it done well and feel comfortable being there. And so that's definitely what I'm doing at Got Roots. My independent stylist staff is already incredibly diverse. And I make sure in all of my marketing that people can see that literally whoever you are, like you can walk in and get your hair done.
Yeah. I love it. It's beautiful. Do you have any hair horror stories?
Like that I did to somebody or
It could
myself?
be you screwing something up. It could be somebody else screwing something up that you watched. It could be on stage somewhere. Anything you want.
I'm not going there. Um, I mean, I've definitely done my damage over the course of my career. I think it's a humbling experience to go back and look at like your work at the beginning when you first started doing hair. You're like, I'm glad they loved me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've been in some like mentor type positions throughout my career where I feel like I gave really solid advice and they didn't listen to any of it.
Mm.
And yeah, hair ends up on the floor, you know, and then they come to me in tears like, "Oh my God, what happened?" I was like, "Well, I kind of
I
told you not to do
just
that,
said, yeah.
and you did it anyways." So, I think one of my favorite flubs on myself though is one of those longtime clients, super chill, that standard, you know, 6'10", doesn't like a lot of change, long, beautiful hair. And one day I'm doing her color and it's processing like really red. And I'm like, this is oxidizing like really weird. I'm like, are you pregnant or something? Like, what's going on? It's so weird. I rinse her out. She's like Ariel red because I had put a red violet in my 6N box.
No,
Yeah.
you
So instead of,
didn't.
I did. So instead of
Oh
in Wella
my
terms,
God.
instead of a 6.0, it was a six stroke 4.5. And I didn't
Wow.
stop to look at the tab. It was beautiful. It was a
Yeah.
beautiful red.
Just not what she wanted.
And she just had the whole like, oh my, like, okay. She was like, you know, it is pretty. She was like, I don't think I'm this cool to rock this. But she was like, let me live in it for a day and then I'll let you know. And she was like, yeah, all the friends love it. She's like, I can't. She's like, I can't do it. And so
Oh my
thankfully I was
God.
able to do a quick color remover and get her back to browns. But ever since then, I always double check my tubes when I pull them out the box.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah,
why we're talking about it. So you listeners, you
yep.
hear that? Always check your tubes.
Always check your tubes.
People make mistakes, including you.
hmm
Any
hmm
last words for the community?
Ooh. Um, I would say like I'm in a lot of different salons all over the country, and some of the common thread is like, you know, especially this last year has been tough in salons, like not quite as busy, people aren't making quite as much money, clients aren't coming in as often, and I just want you to know not to give up. You know, there are so many ways that you can set yourself apart from other stylists. You know, if you can, really investing into advanced education really is the key because our industry is just changing so much. But I hate it when I see people leave the industry and it's like, don't give up, don't leave, like fight it out. You're gonna have some rough years, you're gonna have some great years, but ultimately, in the end, for me, it's the best career. So don't give
Do you
up.
think this is do you think what you just spoke about is a temporary thing? Do you think it's owed towards trends? Do you think it's owed towards economics? What do you think?
Definitely economics, you know, inflation. I mean, oh God, I just moved back to California. My gas is $5 a gallon. I was like,
Yep. Welcome back.
and I was like, oh, Texas, okay. You know, and it's not, people are always going to get their hair done, but like I said, maybe, you know, they're instead of that 4 to 6 weeker, now they're an 8 to 10 weeker. And then we also kind of shot ourselves in the foot by doing all these lived-in blondes. Well, guess what? They don't have to come back in that often anymore. You
Right.
know what I mean? That's why I've
Right.
always been a highlight girl. But you know, again, we just have to adapt. We have to be better at budgeting. We have to be better at marketing. And then, like we said earlier, like don't take for granted the people that are in your chair and to, you know, always take care of them.
Absolutely. Wise, wise words. You are Akela. I love your Akela and the Bee Instagram handle, but your hair gram is Akela's hair. A
Akila's
K
hair,
E
yes.
yeah, AKELAS hair. Thank you so much,
Yes.
Akela. This is so fun.
Thank you, Eric. This is awesome. I really appreciate this opportunity to be on your show. This is great.